here today to talk to you about using graphic illustration as a tool in your music classroom. Graphic illustrations are commonly used in literacy-heavy disciplines, such as literacy and social science classes, to allow students to understand concepts more thoroughly. Music can utilize these exact same resources to allow a more thorough understanding of individual pieces, genres, and other aspects of music. And the great news about this is we don't need to teach these ideas and these skills. It's something that someone else in our school has already taught them. One of these examples of graphic illustration are what are called plotline diagrams. Plotline diagrams are commonly used to understand key aspects of literary works. You remember these from your freshman English class. Voop, voop. For example, the exposition of this book tells us that Bilbo came from a peaceful place called the Shire, where nothing exciting ever happened and leisure and luxury were the center of life. As we continue on, the rising action tells us that Gandalf shows up with a band of dwarves, and they head off on an adventure to take back the Lonely Mountain. Along the way, they meet trolls, goblins, giants, spiders, elves, and a nasty dragon called Smaug. The climax is when Smaug is killed by an arrow shot by Bard, and the armies of men, goblins, elves, dwarves, and eagles descend upon the Lonely Mountain to take back its treasure. The following action is after the armies come to terms with a treaty, leaving Middle-earth on tenuous but at moments safe ground, and the resolution is when Bilbo settles in for a quiet life of comfort. Cue the forbidding music for a much longer book. This is just one interpretation of The Hobbit. I'm sure there are others that could look at this very differently. So how does this work with the concept of music? We have the same elements: exposition, rising action, climaxes, descending action, and then resolution. For an example of this, I want you to consider Granger's The Lost Lady Found, the sixth movement out of Lincolnshire Posy. Take a listen. This was just one interpretation of this great work, but it allows students to organize their thoughts around how they might perform this piece, how they might understand its phrasing, and its other structure and internal relationships. The goal of using graphic illustration isn't to give a definite answer, but rather to give students and ourselves a way by which to understand how we might utilize music otherwise. Another commonly used visual aid is the network tree. In this, the central idea is developed out into supporting ideas, which then break out into further details. To give an example of this, I want you to think about the idea of theme and variations, and what makes a variation of a various theme. To illustrate this, I want you to think about Variations on America by Charles Ives. Cue music. So, for example, in Variation 1, students might mention that they hear staccato accompaniments, unaltered melodies, and soft dynamic levels. They might hear, as we come into Variation 2, that the accompaniment becomes subdivided and that the playing becomes very legato. In the third variation, students might notice that there's individual chords that sound unusual, or that the instrumentation changes regularly throughout. In the fourth variation, the gross playing might stand out. The use of bitonality, the use of chorale, which differ from the formats that we heard in the previous variations. The fifth variation has accompaniment parts that are scale-based, extensive fluctuations in tempo, and grace notes in particular those accompaniment parts. The sixth variation has a very unique style. It's almost a blend of Russian and Spanish music. The use of castanets and the entrance of minor keys. And the seventh variation starts with small ensemble playing, very virtuosic approaches, an accompaniment that's built on offbeats and sudden style changes. So the question is now, what do we do with these observations? Well, the first thing is to look at them and start classifying them together into groups. For our example of theme and variations, these then become our subgroups, our major ideas that relate to the idea of theme and variation. In this case, I grouped those together into variation based on timbre, variation based on rhythm, and variation based on tonality. There are obviously many others that could be included, but for the sake of time and space, sticking with those three concepts. As we move beyond those major subheadings, we start getting into the details. It's in these details that the individual observations of each variation come into play. The observations, for example, of major versus minor versus bitonal sounds. The use of offbeat rhythms versus metrically aligned ones versus subdivided rhythms. What this allows our students to do is similar to the plot line structure, is to give them a method by which to organize their thoughts, to give them a system by which to understand the musical concepts that they're addressing. And these are ideas then that as they come to another theme and variations, they're able to apply and be able to utilize their knowledge from working on variations in America in a new setting. Graphic illustration is something that can be used not only with intermediate and secondary level students, but with elementary students as well to help them understand how different elements of music interact. Here's an example using my children. This is Natalie and Noah, and they're 6 years old. All right, so we're here with Natalie and Noah. Natalie, can you say hello?
Hello.
Noah, can you say hello?
Hello.
And Natalie and Noah, I am going to have you listen to two different versions of the same song. And you know this song already. It's called Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And I'm going to have you listen to it. And after you listen to it, I want you to draw and color what you hear. Now these versions are going to be completely different than the one you know already from the movie. Are you ready to do this? All right. So this first one is by a man with a very silly name. His name is, and he's from Hawaii.
Sounds like Oz.
Almost like Oz, you're right. So here
Though he has an S.
Well, actually it's an I instead of an O. So here you go. You ready to listen? Now you draw a little bit of it. Draw what you heard. I'm going to take these for just a minute. You'll get them back. Put your crayon back now. Okay? And I'm going to give you one more piece of paper. And we're going to listen to another version of the same song. And this one is by a jazz musician. And his name is Stan Kenton. And this one sounds quite different from what we just listened to. So your picture might have some of the same things, but it might have some different things in it too. You ready?
Yes.
So draw what you just heard. So now that you have your pictures done, I have a question for both of you. Did you make the same exact picture both times? No. Noah, what is different about your pictures?
That one has this. One has the sun and the other doesn't, and one has the rainbow touching the ground, but the other one doesn't. One has clouds, but the other one doesn't, and one has me directing the band.
Oh, you're directing the band? Was there something in the music that made you draw them differently? Why did you draw this one the way you did? This is number 2.
Because it sounded more like a directed.
It sounded more like it was being directed? Why did it sound like it was being directed?
Because it more didn't have really words.
Oh, there was no singer in it. Let's look at your pictures. So here's number 2 and here's number 1. Did you draw the same picture both times?
No.
No? What's different about your pictures?
One has me singing and one has me playing cymbals and drums.
One you're singing and one you're playing cymbals and drums? Why did you draw them differently? What did you hear that was different?
Because the other one was didn't have a singer and one did have a singer.
One had a singer and one didn't have a singer? Were they both somewhere over the rainbow still? How did you know they were both somewhere over the rainbow still?
Slow.
What? What did you say, Noah?
Because the music that it had in it
Come on.
sounded the same. So the music in it sounded kind of like words, though not words.
Oh, what the trombone played sounded like the same thing that they sang with the words? Oh, okay. Do you know what that's called?
No.
That's called the melody of the song. And the melody was the same. I want to introduce you to something over here. Right here. This is called a Venn diagram. We're going to call it the Venn, okay? And
we have done these at school.
You've done these at school. So what goes in this part where they overlap?
What's the same?
What's the same? So if the purple one was the one by Is, the guy with the silly name, and the green circle is the one by Stan Kenton, the one with no words, what falls in the middle? What was the same about both of them?
Because both of them were the same song.
They were the same song.
I was going to say.
So do you remember what word we used for that?
No.
Started with an M. The same...
Melody.
The same melody. So the melody is the same.
Miss Donnie, who does it like she does this one on this side and that one on that side.
Could be. What was different about the one that was sung by Is?
Is used the word.
Okay, this one had words. So if this one had words, what did Stan Kenton's have?
No word.
No words. Was there anything else that was different about them?
Sam Kenton used all music.
Okay, no instruments. How about no words? So Stan Kenton used all music? Okay, when you say that it was all music, what do you mean by that?
I mean like
Natalie, stay over here so you can see.
someone not singing a song.
Okay, no one was singing the song, so there were no words to it. Were the backgrounds the same in both of them?
No.
No? What was Iz's like?
It was like kind of like soft.
Oh, Iz's was soft? How would you describe Stan Kenton's?
Sam Kenton's was like loud.
Okay, so this one was soft and this one was loud. Which one did you like better?
I liked better Iz's one.
Why did you like Iz's better?
I liked Iz's better because it had I liked it because it because it actually more sounded like because the regular version is actually kind of soft, not like wow.
Oh, so it sounded more like the original version that you knew already.
Way over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, and the dreams that you dare